welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, and every week I am delighted, privileged, and honored to bring you, my viewers, financial news, information, and resources that you cannot find anywhere else. And boy, oh boy, is today a phenomenal show. This is just my opinion because I have a lot of information to bring to you, a lot of information that you need to know. And I'd like to open up the show today. The topic is tax-free retirement. Can you imagine having a retirement income coming in consistently every month that's completely legal, completely above board, that you pay no income tax on, tax-free retirement? And we're going to be talking about that as the subject today for those of you that are preparing for retirement, or even those of you that are younger and would like to lay a foundation so that you can receive monies in your golden years that will sustain you for many years to come. I'd like to open up the show today by giving you a personal story. And I always like to do what we call storytelling when I do my workshops and seminars, because it gives people something to relate to. We do better with just hearing stories. So I thought I would give you a story today, and I prepared it to read to you. The whole notion of being financially prepared for these turbulent times ahead reminds me of an incident that I encountered the other day. I'm sure this has happened to all of us at one point or another. I was driving with a friend to a local restaurant, and a car in the next lane just about sideswiped us. I never even saw it. Has that happened to you all? Fortunately, my friend did. And he yelled out and even nudged my steering wheel to get us out of harm's way. Ultimately, aside from a slightly elevated heart rate and some flaring up of my road rage for a minute, everything was fine. However, that experience got me thinking. The other car that day was in my blind spot. Had my good friend not hollered out, we would have spent our lunch filling out police reports and accident reports for insurance companies rather than enjoying a good meal. No, not because we weren't paying attention. I was paying full attention, going the right speed, staying in my lane, in a safe distance from the car in front of me, watching out for those around me. Even so, the other car was in my blind spot. I couldn't see it from where I was sitting. And in situations like that, having a friend along for the ride can be a lifesaver. Someone with a different perspective than your own. Someone who can see things you can't. Someone who can help you make a little adjustment, like my friend helped me, to avoid a consequence I never really needed to experience in the first place. That blind spot. Unfortunately, I've met thousands of individuals over the last 36 years that I have been in private practice who are in a similar position financially, just cruising along, minding all the laws, and doing everything they know that they should be doing, thinking everything is perfectly fine, while significant financial issues creep up their blind spots. With the volatile market, the economy in turmoil, and the financial uncertainty that we all continue to face, there's an awful lot at stake here. For many of you watching this show, listen, you simply can't afford a wreck right now, especially when you should be enjoying your retirement. You spent all these years driving toward. And for many of you that say, I'm already in a wreck, well, let me share something with you. There are some strategies that you're going to have to put into place fairly quickly. And there are some aggressive moves that you're going to have to make immediately in order to avoid further carnage. You didn't come this far in life to see everything blown up around you because of your lack of financial awareness. Look at me as that person in the car seat next to you, trying to tell you, wait, we're gonna be swiped. I'm the person that is there in that blind spot in your eyes to alert you that these things are not only upon us, but they're moving quickly. And for so many of my viewers, the lack of planning, the lack of the ability to see. See, I don't believe people blow themselves up deliberately. I don't believe that. All these years I've been in private practice and handled affairs for seniors and for all, I mean, there's not a situation I haven't been in. I'm so serious. Some of it just like, I want to just, But the blind spot, the belief that you actually have time to get it right, the belief that you actually can get it right without good financial counsel, that's an absurdity. You need help. You can't know it all. You can't make all the moves. It's not like working a job where every day you go to a predictable structure. The world of money and finance moves quickly, fast, boom. It's a money rule. Money doesn't sleep at night. Money works 24/7. And again, for so many of us, the whole area of money, when I talk about money, people get completely blindsided. They glaze over. They start mumbling. Or for some of them, they get very, very nervous, even to the point of hysteria. But yet and still, money will loom in front of you. And you must either make it work for you or it will work for someone else. That is the raw truth. And so today I want to talk to you about not just the framework for tax-free retirement, because I do believe in the days ahead that we're going to see things that this nation has never, ever seen, and we're going to experience things that this nation has never experienced. And I will also say, and not with 1 ounce of pride or arrogance, but I was talking this story in 2004, 5, and 6, and actually began going on television talking about it in 2007. You can go to my YouTube, Power of Money, and see a tape from 2007 where I talked about this. So I'm one of a handful. I'm not the only person that saw this, because there are those of us who are forecasters, economic gurus, if you want to call it, that do have a sense for where things are going and are not hyper anything. We're just saying this thing is coming down the pike and you need to begin to order your steps. Now, 2007 would have been a great time to order your steps before the blowout of 2008 with Lehman and Bear Stearns and the U.S. government bailing us out. Actually, it was us bailing the banks out with the TARP and lots of things that have since ensued. But my point today is to let you know that was 2008. We got another big shoe getting ready to drop called January the 1st, 2013. And January the 1st, 2013 is the mothership. And I'm saying this on television because it is the mothership. Doesn't matter who we elect as president. There are certain things that have been building up in our economy, and we have been trying desperately, our government, to delay the inevitable. And so I want to talk to you today about how you must position yourself right now. There's some things that you can do, but most importantly, moving forward, since I absolutely know the government is going to have to raise taxes. And why do I say that? Well, viewers, I've been saying that for a long time. They have to raise taxes because of the baby boomers. My generation, we're all leaving the workplace, and we're taking with us a ton of money. We're not going to be moving money. We are retired. All of the excessive consumption that characterized that generation is shrinking. Why? Because when you're retired, you're not interested in spending a lot of money. You've got your yachts, you've got your boats, you've got your cars, you've even got a house. You're trying to figure out how to get rid of this house. But I say all of this because with the rapid replacement of, I shouldn't say replacement, the rapid exit of baby boomers to the tune of 10,000 people a day. Can you believe that? Largest out-migration from the labor force in history in this country. It is going to have cataclysmic impact on our revenues. And how we did things in the past is simply not going to work for the future. So the government is going to have to raise revenues, because if you're not bringing in taxes, then how do you meet the shortfall? And before you start saying, well, we got to reduce spending, viewers, that's what January the 1st is about. We're going to do that. There's no denying that is law, to the tune of $109 billion. That's how serious this piece is. But that's still not going to be enough. We've got some other things that have to happen, including the taxing of our out of our pockets. We've got to do that. We don't have a choice. So I want to talk to you about this, because without an understanding of what the government's doing, what the economy is doing, you will find yourself thrown under the bus again. You're like, boy, I'm getting tired of this. Well, don't get tired, because it's just started. So let me begin by saying, just right off the bat, there are 4 things you can do with money, period. Only 4 things. 4. Free money. Free money can come from inheritances. That's nice. A lot of seniors are passing on money to their children and grandchildren. That's a good thing. It can come from matching 401k money. If you're in a company that's doing well and your employer wants to contribute 3% and you contribute matching, not a dime more, 3% as well, then your return automatically is 100%, because that 3% they gave you is free money. So this is why I share with people, I do not believe that you need to invest $1 more than the match. So if your employer is going to match you, then fine, take advantage. That's free money. The second type of money is tax-free money. Boy, don't we love that one, to not have to pay taxes. And that money can be in the form of your Roth IRAs, which is your IRA that has been taxed ahead of time, so that you don't have any taxable consequence on any of the gains inside of the account. That's called a Roth. Very powerful venue, very powerful vehicle. Also through investment grade life insurance. Yeah. Now, before you say, what does that mean? I am saying to you that life insurance remains the holy cash cow in the investment industry. And there are a lot of reasons for this. Life insurance, unlike banks, life insurance is highly regulated globally. You are not going to find companies failing in the venue of life insurance because, in the same way as banks. Why? Because of those capital reserves. And there are very strict and strongly enforced regulations around capital reserves. These reserves have to be pristine. They have to be monitored, and life insurance companies cannot invest in anything. One of the things I did at an earlier point in my career is I was a senior investment director for one of the largest life insurance companies in the world. And I managed their banking portfolio at that time. And it was it was close to half a million dollars then. And we invested in bonds and also debentures, which is we took bank debt to allow them to expand. Banks, by the way, are considered venture capital. They're high risk. Why? Because a bank does not have traditional assets, viewers, like your normal corporations. A bank has deposits, but the deposits are insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and they have a very few assets. So when you lend against a bank, you're lending against the ability of the bank to make prudent loans and to repay your debt. So I was able to learn about the banking industry in the early 70s because of my experience in this particular position for this insurance company. But I also learned, as a part of the investment division, is that insurance companies get in premiums like clockwork every month from all over the world. And those premiums have to be invested in the marketplace, kind of like banks getting in deposits, only the difference is an insurance company signs a contract, which is a pledge that if you die, they will pay you whatever the face amount is on your contract. So if you have $1 million life insurance policy, even if you've only paid in $50,000 and you die tomorrow, the insurance company has to fulfill that obligation. And that's important. This is why I share with people, I will always be a strong proponent of life insurance, because you are spending pennies to get thousands. And that's very powerful. You say, oh, I can't afford the premiums, but look at where the insurance company is. They are on the hook. If you die, they have to pay out that contract in full. That's major. And because of that, insurance companies have been tightly regulated all over the world. And they do invest that money in all kinds of things. But again, it has to meet the regulatory scrutiny and satisfaction of regulatory agencies in the United States. That would be each state. In overseas, it would be the countries. But the reality is this: that is a source of tax-free money. Why? Because you can structure insurance contracts where you can take loans out from your policy, and again, that's tax-free income. Tax-free income. Plus, if you die, that money passes to your estate, to your beneficiaries, income tax-free. Wow, that's the truth. And it's always been like that. That's not a new thing. It can be leveraged to create income now as well as tax-free income for your heirs. The third type of money is tax-deferred money. And I'm talking about these types of money because if you do not know these things, it looks real crazy when you start talking about how am I going to do this and what is she talking about. But tax-deferred money, many of you are already familiar with. These are annuities. Annuities allow you to build up on a tax-deferred, didn't say tax-free, but tax-deferred basis money, as well as your tax-qualified plans, which many of us are familiar with, your 401k plans, your 403b plans if you're with nonprofits, and finally your IRAs. But please be aware that tax deferred does not mean tax free. And here's the catch, and it's a serious catch, and it's one that I've been uncomfortable about from the inception of these programs, because of the fact that you can wind up in a situation where you're going to wind up with a huge tax liability when you begin to go into withdrawal. Because one of the things about tax qualified plans, viewers, is that you must take the money out. You cannot allow the money to accumulate ad infinitum into that account. And so at some point, and the point is age 70 and a half, the IRS says you must begin mandatory minimum withdrawals from that account. Now, for those of you that are not happy about that, if you don't take money out under the calculations based upon age and expectancy, you will find yourself socked with a 50% penalty known as an excise tax for your failure to take distribution at that mandatory age. That's a required minimum distribution, or MRD, minimum required distribution, excuse me. Very, very important. So again, that's not tax-free money. You've accumulated money in that account, and so many people are just confused, which is, what do you mean? And I'm like, that's the IRS. You could not possibly think the government was going to have a program that was going to look out for your best interest. The government knows full well that by the time you are ready to start pulling out money, that you probably won't be able to pull out all of it before you're dead. And that's a sad story, because at death, all of that money becomes fully taxable. Right. Unless you have taken the necessary steps, and I will talk about that in another show, to use a specific strategy to minimize or eliminate that big tax bite. But that is real. The fourth thing, of course, is taxable money. And we are all in the taxable money business. Wages, capital gains, 1099s that you get every year on your interest. That's right. You say, I'm not making any money. It doesn't matter. You're still going to pay taxes. That is taxable money. So what is the preferred strategy? Tax deferral or tax-free? What is the game plan for you at this point in your life? And with that, I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit and tell you to hold that thought, because what's coming down the pike on January the 1st is going to change your whole method of thinking. And just remember what I said when I opened up at the beginning of this show and talked about a scenario where I was almost sideswiped, doing everything by the rules, driving carefully, driving defensively, and there was a car that was getting ready to hit me on the side, and I never saw it because it was in my blind spot. And we all have blind spots. We've been doing this by the rules, and now here this stuff comes, and it's moving fast, and bam! If you are not properly positioned and prepared, you're going to get hit. And I just have to put it like that. So you say, well, Money Lady, what are you talking about? We already know the economy is bumpy, and I'm trying to get through it, but I'm saying to you, you need to accelerate this piece, because I'm getting ready to give you some real hardcore data that you need to have to enable you to do better. First thing, and this is important, Social Security is in deep trouble. No question. If you get your little Social Security statement, which I just got mine, on the right side it says, in 2016, we will begin paying more in benefits than we collect in taxes. They tell you this. Don't sit up and say you don't know, because they're telling you. Without changes, and this is key, by 2037, the Social Security Trust Fund will be exhausted, and there will be enough money to pay only about 76 cents for each dollar of scheduled benefits. We need to resolve these issues, no kidding, soon to make sure Social Security continues to provide a foundation of protection for future generations. So when people tell me, I didn't know it was that bad, I said, at the point they're sending you a letter with your yearly statement, part of the body of the communique that says this, you need to be a little bit concerned. Do I think Social Security will remain solvent? I don't know. With all these baby boomers leaving the system rapidly, I really think that they'll try to honor that group, but I do think that subsequent generations, like my children, are going to get the shaft. I don't see how it's going to work out any other way. And again, this is based upon certain economic projections and forecasting with regard to interest rates, etc. I don't have an answer, but I will tell you that's called a blind spot that is now getting ready to hit you. Prepare for the possibility that you won't get any Social Security. I am not anticipating in my forward planning as a baby boomer getting any Social Security. And frankly, when FDR designed Social Security, viewers, he never designed Social Security to be the primary leg on your footstool. It was supposed to be the third leg. Your first leg was supposed to represent your savings. Right, personal responsibility. Don't spend all your money. Anticipate a different time in your life where you weren't going to have the same financial resources. The second leg was going to be your pensions. And back then it was they were called defined benefit pensions, where you knew exactly how much money you were going to get. Think General Motors retirees, think Ford Motors, think the big manufacturing companies. They all did defined benefit plans where they represented, they would pay you a certain given amount. And then the third leg, which is the safety net leg, was Social Security. Now, this is the odd thing. People didn't save. What do you know? Pension funds stopped being viable because manufacturers could not meet expectations for performance with these defined benefit plans and started collapsing them. And so now you've got everybody looking at Social Security, which was only supposed to be a safety net to ensure that people would not be flat broke. Remember, FDR birthed this out of the Great Depression, and so many people were devastated. Remember Hoovervilles? Remember the food lines? Remember starving people? That was America, not a joke. So he put into place systems that he felt would allow people not to be destitute and broke. And that was Social Security. He subsequently put into place add-ons to Social Security for people that were disabled, etc. But Social Security was never designed from inception to be that any more than just a safety net. It was never to be a fundamental foundational part of your retirement. Fast forward, here we are today. People depend upon Social Security as an integral part of their retirement plan. How do I know? Because the first of the month, don't try to go to the grocery store because seniors are lined up trying to buy food, trying to buy necessities, etc. And it's really, really amazing because that was not the way it was supposed to be. But I'm giving you a heads up. So you got this situation with Social Security. And frankly, it's a mess. 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 But do not say that they did not tell you, because it's right there for you to read. Moving right along. Why am I so focused on January the 1st, 2013? Because in my opinion, as an economic forecaster, And I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I'm not positive or negative. I just look at data and present the information and allow my clients and viewers and other people that listen to me on television, radio, etc., to come to their own conclusions. But I do believe January the 1st, 2013 is our financial judgment day. Exactly. And the impact is going to be severe, and that is why I'm talking about tax-free retirement, because taxes are getting ready to ratchet this way. You say, but I can't afford to pay it. Oh, yes, you can afford to pay it, because the government is a machine, and they're not really interested in whether you're having a good day or not. So my commitment to you is to lay out a framework and a foundation so that you can begin to order your steps proactively for you and your family. That's really what it's all about. You can make the wise and necessary decisions for these difficult times. And believe me, the United States has had difficult times, but we've not seen the likes of anything like what is getting ready to take place since the Great Depression. Let's talk about this issue. For starters, and let's just talk about unemployment. And let's talk about the statistics on unemployment. I'm trying to give you a framework here, okay? We are talking about unemployment, 8.3%, can't get below 8. But the real unemployment rate, according to shadow government statistics, is 22.9. That represents discouraged workers, people that are underemployed, want to work full-time, cannot get jobs. Now, this figure may vary from region to region in the United States because it's a big country. But the fact of the matter is that we have a huge and growing population of people that have been permanently displaced from the marketplace. And unless things change radically and drastically, and I don't see how, I'm just being open because we got all of our military people coming in from the war, and they cannot get jobs. They're trying to go to school, they're trying to upgrade their skill base, but they're coming into an economy that does not have room for them. And those numbers are not in this statistic at all. So we're looking at a 22.9% real unemployment rate. Does that make you feel a little nervous? It should, because probability is, unless you're very, very wealthy, you know people that are out of work and that have been out of work for a long, long time. And with this number, we're also looking at, how do I put it carefully or politically correct? We're looking at a flat-out depression, period. 29.5% of the unemployed have been out of work for more than a year. That is awful. America's middle class is shrinking rapidly. That is correct. 43.6 million Americans, many of whom were formerly middle class, I know you know people like that, are now living in poverty. That's more than any time since the government began keeping records. Nearly 1/5 of U.S. income, household income, now comes from government assistance of some type, food stamps, Section 8, etc. This is why I'm incredibly alarmed when they're talking about food stamp cutbacks, because so many people in America are dependent upon food to get through the day. And with these programs that are feeding children at schools because their parents don't have enough money to feed them at home, those facing severe cutbacks, January the 1st, 2013, you're going to see some things. I think it's reprehensible that children cannot eat, that they're hungry. This is the global pattern with children anyway. The majority of people go to bed hungry, and children are just considered excess capacity and scrounge around the best way they can. That to me is unacceptable, as I've said in times past, that we are having to make those kinds of slice and dice decisions. The other thing is our debt. I don't have to tell you about the debt. The debt is over 14 trillion and growing. And that's the debt that's on the books. We also have off-book debt, which many economists believe is now $222 trillion. Those are unfunded liabilities, Social Security, and other off-book items that still have to be paid like clockwork. Now, what does this mean? And let me just stop for a minute, because one of the things that I've talked about over the years is you cannot do the debt game and survive. It doesn't matter whether it's you personally or whether it's your city or your county or your state or your federal. You cannot do debt ad infinitum. Why do I say this is major? For those of you that are Bible scholars and students, Google Year of Jubilee and why God basically declared a moratorium on all debt every 7 years. Yes, he did. Because as the infinite God himself, he knew that people can't do debt. Here's the thing about debt. Debt is never without a charge, meaning interest. To borrow, you have to pay for the money. And it is the interest that will kill you, because interest has a really funny little attribute called compounding. And it's really the eighth wonder of the world. It is, because you can start out with 5% interest, and thanks to the power of compounding, you will actually see interest double and quadruple. If you don't think I'm exaggerating, or if you think I'm exaggerating, look at your credit card statement, especially those of you that are involved with the Walmart situation. Look at what you started out with and look at what you owe today. Right. That's called compounding. That's called interest earning interest on itself. Yeah, money multiplies itself. But to your demise. So while, and I have some stats here, while in 2008 the debt was 9.3 billion, today, well, I shouldn't say billion, this is trillion, 9.3 trillion. Today it's 14.6 trillion. And the reason it's increased, it went from 1.67 billion per day in 2006 to today is 3.96 billion per day. Now, why is that so? Because of interest. Because you have to pay to use money. Money is not free. You have to pay. When you borrow money, there is an interest cost assessed. And this is why last January, Standard & Poor's lowered its debt rating, its credit rating for the United States. Now you say, what does that mean? It means for us to borrow money, it's now costing us more. We have to pay more in interest than before because our credit rating has been compromised. And why was our credit rating compromised? Because the financial analysts and Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, these are all rating agencies that everyone globally looks to as a guide for whether they're going to get their money back. They rate corporations, they rate governments, they rate municipal, and they rated us, and we lost our credit rating. It was downgraded a notch, which meant our interest costs went up. Well, listen, folks, at $14.6 trillion compounded daily interest, that's called out the back door. Out the back door. So, this is what Congress did a year ago. The summer of 2011, can you believe it? We're a year ago. Washington was not only dead broke, it was out of money, and our AAA credit rating was revoked. And so the Congress reached, and you know it was feverish and violent even, they made a makeshift compromise known as the Budget Control Act of 2011. Now listen to me, people, because the Budget Control Act raised the debt limit by 2.1 million trillion, I'm sorry, all these zeros, 2.1 trillion. And it gave the government enough money to keep from collapsing until the end of 2012. Did you hear what I said? It gave enough money to keep us from collapsing until the end of 2012. In return, this Budget Control Act of 2011 imposed spending caps that will slash by $109 billion a year for 9 years, beginning January the 1st, 2013. Now you just heard it. Now where are the cuts coming from? $54.7 billion is coming from Department of Defense and their spending. Health and Human Services, which includes your discretionary programs, food stamps, and those things. $38.6 billion in cuts. These are mandatory. You're not going to negotiate. This is law. This thing was passed. And finally, Medicare and other entitlements, $16.2 billion. That is the minimum. $109 billion. Done. Finished. America is going to go through some stuff. The biggest industry impacted is going to be the U.S. defense industry, and they're already preparing for these cuts with thousands of people being let go in anticipation of January the 1st. Remember, private sector doesn't play around. They say, okay, this is coming. We need to deal with it. Now, the other thing is government will be cutting back. Government is going to shrink. Has to. That's the flip side. Remember, in economics, we learn about guns versus butter. And guns were the military, and butter was the consumption. And now we're going to cut back on both, and we're going to cut back severely and sharply, but particularly in the area of guns. America will not be policing the world because we're not going to have the money because of debt. Remember? The eighth wonder of the world that has drugged down countries all over. Ask the Germans about it. Ask Europe about it. In fact, let's expand it. Germany dealt with this, and it caused 2 world wars, and folks are still nervous. But now we're looking at Europe. And this is about the debt, the interest on the debt. Countries cannot generate enough revenue, tax revenue, to pay the debt. That's why I said to you that biblically, God said, Jubilee, every 7th year, we're wiping the slate clean because you cannot, slaves had to be released, people that sold their family into servanthood because they couldn't pay their debt. That was all canceled. And I tell you, it is this debt thing and the interest that continues to compound like the bunny. What's that ever-ready bunny that, you know, never stops marching? That is interest, and it never does stop. So we're looking at, again, this issue of the Budget Control Act of 2011 that will be implemented January the 1st, 2013, automatic, in law, done. The United States must pay its debt interest, or else it's going to get blown up in capital markets. You know, the people that loan us money to pay our bills, period. If we do not do this, our interest costs will go even higher. Are we bankrupt right now? Well, yes, we're bankrupt. Our debt exceeds our gross domestic product, which is the sum total of our goods and services and consumption and investment, as well as government. The government's been carrying the load because the private sector doesn't have the money to make this happen. So traditional Keynesian theory says then the government has to fill in that gap, and the government has done that. So before you start beating Mr. Bernanke and all the other economists, this is how we were trained, which is if one falls short, and in this case, the consumer sector, which was 70% of the economy, fell short. Private sector didn't pick up the slack because why would they? They're the most conservative players on the globe. Private sector is not going to be investing in stuff where they don't see a return. They're not going to be doing the dream, I'll build it and they will come. That's not business. That's not the way the world of business works. The world of business says we respond to demand. If demand is there, we will respond. We will increase production. We will hire new people, etc. The demand is not there. So the government did this, and that is the government went on a buying spree through stimulus spending, through the Fed's decision to print more money called quantitative easing, 1, 2, and now they're getting ready to do 3. I believe they're going to print more money because they're adamant that we've got to stimulate this economy. But I don't know how it's going to happen with this debt around our neck. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I don't know. I don't know. Really. The third thing, and that is the tax hike. It's a $440 billion tax hike coming on the entire American middle class, on every wealthy American, on retirees, on employers, and on you. Exactly, you. Washington's not going to tell you this, but most economists, bankers, and everybody else, we're kind of hoping, like, can they? But here's what's going to happen. If you have kids at home, your tax credit for each child will be cut in half. Your long-term investments, profits, those long-term capital gains, your maximum tax rate will be raised by 1/3. Your investments, which earn dividends, the tax on those dividends could more than double. If you own your own business, the deductions you get for investing in your business will be dramatically slashed. Many of the personal exemptions will be canceled. Itemized deductions will be restructured, including tax deductions for married couples. This is the deal. According to the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center, a whopping 96% of all middle income earners will see their average taxes rise by $1,800 a year. I'm not making this stuff up, and I'm not trying to spook you out. I'm trying to tell you that this is what's coming. And I absolutely believe that as a result of this tax Armageddon, and incidentally, oh, how could I forget, the restoration of the estate taxes, federal estate taxes, probably will go back into play. And that is major, major, since the federal estate taxes can swallow up almost half of the estate. So, where are we here? And what does this all mean for you? Well, the first thing is that be aware that behind all of this maneuvering, interest rates will go higher. Now, the good thing is that if you've got money in the bank at 0.5 of 1% in a CD, that may come out better because the market forces are going to step into play. The negative is that interest rates are going to go higher, and that national debt thing is getting ready to get really, really scary. What does that mean for you? It also means that along with higher interest rates, you will be dealing with the issue of higher inflation, like we're not seeing it now with the famine and corn and food prices and everything else. It makes you want to grow your own food, again, which I've started to do. I have. You can laugh at me, but you won't be laughing when lettuce is $6 a head. You'll grow it at home. What does this mean for you as a pre-retiree or a retiree? We know that tax rates are heading up, and we know that your disposable income will be squished. Then what do you need to do now? to make things a little better for yourself. The first thing I'm going to recommend to everyone, I don't care who you are, and I don't care how smart you think you are, you're not smart enough to pull this one off. You need to have your money in cash, or at least in a strong cash equivalent, period. That's what you need to do until this thing rides out. I can't tell you when it's not going to complete the cycle. I can't tell you that. I don't know. But I do know that given the turbulence in markets, Europe, China's now feeling bumps, and the United States has this crushing debt that makes Greece's debt look like child's play. What does this mean for you? It means for you that unless you really, really, really like to gamble, that you need to be in a safe position, period. Cash is king, period. You say, how can I make any money? My response to you is, you're talking about making money when the preservation of capital is the most important issue on your mind? Are you kidding me? Stop being a pig and begin to settle down and recognize that your blind spot is getting you hit. And I'm just trying to help you here with some things that will allow you to do things better. It is because we have to now go into a safe harbor that I am such a strong proponent of insurance, life insurance specifically. Why? Because not only does it create benefit upon your demise, okay? But today's life insurance contracts also give you the latitude to take money out in the form of loans, which would, again, at the time of your demise, that money would be subtracted from your face amount of your policy. So again, I'm looking at life insurance as being a venue for you to park your money. And a lot of you can say to yourselves, I don't want to do that. And I will say to you, doesn't matter to me, you're grown. But be aware that that is a blind spot and that it may very well cost you big time. The other thing, and I want to really make sure I explain this correctly, a lot of people are not going to qualify for life insurance because of underwriting and health issues. But if you can, and if you do, again, life insurance offers you income tax-free money through loans, okay, out of the contract. It also passes to your heirs in an income tax-free environment. It can be set up through in a trust if you want even more control. You can use IRA monies under your minimum required distributions to fund a life insurance contract. And that's taking money that would be ultimately taxable and putting it into a situation where it is not. Sweet? Sweet. Yes. The other thing about life insurance, again, is that it gives you the confidence and the protection. And these have to be top-rated companies. I'm not into companies that are below an A. And most of the companies I'm involved in are much higher rated and must be because of their investment philosophy, which I do know personally because that's what I used to do. I like them better than bonds, which are going to be literally stabbed in the neck as interest rates go up, because people don't understand about bonds. When interest rates go up, bond values are impacted adversely, and I expect interest rates to go up. I do. I expect the bond market to get slaughtered. So you say, what about mutual funds? What about them? I did those in the 80s. That was then. That's not today. Today is not about diversification. Today is about safety. in the same way as I talked about real estate. So I tell folks, real estate was hot in the 80s. Real estate is not hot today. Okay, why? Because we have a surplus of supply. All those foreclosed homes that I predict the Chinese are going to work a deal and buy. Oh yeah, did you know that? See, you don't know everything. The Fed approved the first bank in the United States to be purchased by a Chinese bank. Yes. So the Chinese actually own a bank here. And they're going to buy more because now they can leverage those banks to do some very aggressive and creative things. And I predict that. I believe the Chinese are going to buy in large numbers foreclosed property from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to get them off their portfolios. And again, the Chinese are laden with all our bad paper. So my recommendation today is cash is king, keep it safe, stay away from mutual funds. I have recommendations on exchange traded funds. That's a different game, but for right now, I want you to think about safety first. Safety first. Safety first. The money lady said safety first because on January the 1st, 2013, you're going to see what this debt crisis has brought us to as a country, as a nation, as a people. God bless and help America. I am your host, Michelle Graves, on this very sobering telecast today on tax-free retirement, what you must do now to position yourself for the days ahead as retirees, as seniors. Before I get off this air, there is another beautiful thing, and that is a 1035 exchange, which will allow you seniors who do not have long-term care to convert your insurance policies into a long-term care policy without a tax effect. Yeah, that's on the books as well. Congress knew very well what was coming down the pike. My recommendation to you is that if you don't have a competent, seasoned financial advisor who can talk to you about a little bit more than pushing products, that you need to give me a call. I'm just going to cut to the chase. You need to get over it and begin to say, maybe I need somebody else to help me and to give me some insight. Get over your pride. We're in a different time, a different season. I had to get over it, okay? I had to learn some things, and I'm on that path. I see where we're headed, and I'm not going to be a part of that cliff experience. I'm not. This is Michelle Graves sending you blessings and much love, and hope to see you the next time. You take care.